With the pedigree Fluence, one might say, was lucky. Do not look that he is of Turkish assembly. True hereditary Gaul with Japanese admixtures. And it is not surprising that the sedan, which was once one of the most affordable in Class C, today is honorably responsible for every hryvnia spent on it in its time. Speaking about the good pedigree of Renault Fluence, first of all, we do not mean the aristocracy of noble European houses, but rather the true songs of the working outskirts. The sedan originated in 2009 as a full-fledged fruiting branch of the third generation of the Megane model for specific markets where four-door bodies are popular. In Ukraine, the car appeared in 2010. It turned out that a decent-sized budget car quickly found its audience. In addition, the asset of the sedan was the Nissan C platform, on which, in addition to Megane, such characters as Qashqai, X-Trail, Scenic, Koleos and others were erected. In a word, Fluence is a typical working bone, which is confirmed by the motors offered with it. These are atmospheric gasoline 16-valve units with a volume of 1.6 and 2.0 liters with a capacity of 110 and 143 horsepower, as well as a 1.5-liter diesel unit with 105 horses. The smaller of the gasoline engines is well known to us under the index K4M, Renault Logan, while the older one was borrowed from Nissan. This couple is extremely unpretentious not only in terms of fuel consumption, but also in general, in terms of possible failures. Loganovsky K4M needs to replace the timing belt every 60,000 km, and, perhaps, once every 15 to 20,000 km it will ask for inexpensive new candles. Elder also, as they say, will not take too much. Resource and reliable chain dog. The timing chain does not run here for too long, about 150,000 km. But all sorts of troubles such as chain jumping are rare. But with transmissions, not everything is as rosy as with motors. If the mechanics is fully provided with a margin of safety, then the 4-speed automatic happens to surprise. We are talking about an unsuccessful, for the sake of accessibility, design of the valve body. Another misfortune is overheating. The budget did not allow to supply the unit with a temperature sensor. However, not the most successful machine quickly gave way to the variator. Of course, Nissan, which is reliable as such, but has many known limitations. He will master his legitimate 200,000 km of resource before repair only in the case of careful and thoughtful operation. You should not be afraid of transmission horror stories here. As a rule, these sedans fell into the hands of sedate people whose driving ambitions did not go beyond. It is better when buying such a car to pay attention to the body. No, it is not considered problematic in terms of corrosion, although the thickness of the paintwork here is small. There are just some nuances. For example, paint that rubs off over time at the points of contact with door seals. Some owners even paste over these surfaces with a film. In the risk zone, as a rule, the bottom and spars, especially at the points of their possible contact with curbs. There is no galvanization here, and rust does not disdain damaged metal. It happens that the red lurks in a niche under the windshield. There are jams in the work of locks. But by and large, the owners are satisfied with the rate of aging of the interior. The seats are firm, albeit amorphous. The upholstery wears out over time, but in general the quality of the materials is up to par, considering the cost of the machine. There are a few electrical questions as well. There are no conceptual and expensive failures to repair here. Yes, little things. For example, many are annoyed by the need to change the headlight bulbs too often. They burn out. Not everything goes smoothly with the contacts on the rear lights. They sometimes have to be cleaned of oxides. In addition, the starter was left without protection here. And after a couple of seasons of operation, especially in the city, it will probably turn sour and refuse to work. The solution may be a special autochemistry for the protection of electricians. Fluence's suspension is definitely a strong point. Not only is it quite comfortable and great for Ukrainian realities, it is also hardy. The intervals between component replacements, when compared with other models, are actually at the maximum. Shock absorbers and ball, for example, go up to 100,000 km. And 60,000 km between the replacement of the stabilizer struts as a result close to the record. The only thing that strains here in terms of resource is the anthers of the shock absorbers. To find fault with the brakes, to anger God. Some manage to change the pads in front only to 80,000 km. Discs require replacement and even less often. There were no serious questions to the electric power steering and the rear beam. Their replacements are a case out of the ordinary. So Fluence showed himself well done. In theory, the restyling of 2012 treated its few weaknesses. And, Given the generally low cost of the car, it may make sense to pay attention to a more recent version than those that we mainly describe today. Are you again waiting for recommendations on the most acceptable version? Do not wait. You all know and so. Mechanics is still more reliable than the Variator, and the 2.0 engine is more powerful than 1.6. With a run of 60 to 70,000 km, bushings and struts will probably need to be replaced. They will make themselves felt with characteristic sounds. Rubber components fail extremely rarely, even with very respectful runs. Suspension is simple, understands without problems. By the way, ball bearings are assembled with levers. They change as a set. In fairness, it is worth recognizing that those very problematic modulation valves on the machine, which sometimes failed, for the most part, were corrected by dealers under warranty. The clutch on machines with a manual transmission takes care of 100,000 km or more. Oil change in the Variator, every 60,000 km. Motor 2.0 is more interesting in terms of dynamics. Its resource is beyond doubt, the control system is not capricious. It happens that the ignition modules fail. But it's not fatal. Experts recommend adjusting the gaps in the timing every 70 to 80,000 km. This is said to prevent early wear of the camshafts and increase noise. Door locks creak quite a lot, and sometimes it's not so easy to determine the source of the sound. Quite early, already by 60,000 km, the rollers of the door stops are erased and begin to click. And one more characteristic feature, the aluminum screen on the bottom, due to overcoming puddles, regularly bends and rings on the muffler. You have to get under the car. A common problem is the heater motor. You will not have time to drive 100,000 km, but it needs to be changed. The brushes wipe the collector, the motor seizes more and more often, and then stops forever. Repairs are not cheap. An electrical appliance can cost more than $300. Often the external temperature sensor breaks down, which leads to errors in the operation of the climate system.